Hey team, it is Walker Dybel kicking off a LinkedIn Live. Let's make sure. The hardest part of LinkedIn Live is that I can't see when people are here, when people are able to sort of, check in and make sure that all the tech is working. If you're here, go ahead and drop in the chat what city you're in right now. Okay, let's go ahead and drop in the chat what city you're in. Let's get our tech going and make sure. Okay, I've got a text happening and it's not in relation to this. I think we're live. Here we go. Okay. Let's see. Sorry for the false start here, people. I'm just trying to make sure we've got that we are live. Go ahead and drop in the chat. Okay. Drop in the chat if you are here. Okay, I am being seen. I see you. Okay, wonderful. Team, we have a super exciting presentation today. Listen, I've been creating a lot of content over the last, many years, I guess. And, recently gave this presentation on, a deal that we're doing here in St. Louis, Missouri, and all of the lessons that, I was able to learn and apply from the game of Monopoly. And so we are going to start to share some of that today. And so that you can get inside one of our deals and see how I'm thinking about, all the things that I'm doing and why I'm doing them. Okay. And there's a lot of really awesome sort of realizations that I had along the way. So let's get started. So look, all of us, okay, are familiar with, have played the game of Monopoly. And if you haven't, do me a favor and just drop off this call to keep the scroll going because I'm going to lose you. Okay, I'm going to lose you. But the thing is that there's a difference, okay, between playing Monopoly and winning Monopoly. Okay, if you are out to win Monopoly, it's not just about luck. There's a strategy. Okay, there are specific tactics that you need to play. It's about being aggressive and strategic, property control, and having the knowledge to manage your cash flow as the game is evolving. Okay, and so I am going to break down for you right now, when playing the game of Monopoly, just the board game, the 7 steps that you need to do in order to win that game. Okay, so number 1, buy everything you land on early in the game. And I think most of us learn this when we're kids, right? I mean, you're trying to hoard your cash and you're holding out for, Boardwalk and Park Place, or, whatever it is that you want to buy, and or all the railroads, whatever your strategy is. And your friend goes in there and ends up like buying as much as possible. And, you end up like just losing because everywhere you land, you're paying rent, right? So, every single it's all about getting on the board, okay, and buying, every single property that you land on right at the beginning, right? So it's just get in the game and get moving, okay? That's the first one. Now we all kind of know that, but there's a second one that takes a little bit longer to learn, and most of us never learn it, okay? And that's the following. When you look at the Monopoly board, what are the spaces? What are the properties? Thanks, SN. I see you and I appreciate your comment. By the way, if you're here, let me know. Drop it in the chat because I need to be able to see that there's stuff going on here, that there's people here. I know most of this is streaming on LinkedIn, but it's also on YouTube. I think some of the comments might be lost, one or the other. Still learning the tech. Johanna, if you're out there, I know we've got a couple of links that we're going to want to be sharing a couple of times throughout. Go ahead and just drop those in the chat so we can get them kind of populated for people who want to check in, throughout the presentation. So here's the deal. When you look at Monopoly, what are the properties that everybody wants to own? If you've played this game, I don't even need to tell you because you know the answer. Everybody wants Boardwalk and Park Place. Everybody, okay, wants the premium luxury high rent district because that's where we're going to make the most money, right? But here's the thing. It's actually much better. Here's the thing. When it's hard to buy these, right? You always want them, but you can't ever seem to land on them. And the thing is that there's certain spaces on the board that actually get the traffic, okay? And those spaces are up here, okay? Those spaces are the red and the orange properties in the upper left corner of your screen here. And the number one is Illinois Avenue. That's the number one spot that people land on the board. And the other two are this one right here and that one right there. Okay, so orange and red, it's this corner. And part of it has to do with like as you roll off of go, like the roll of the dice kind of, you take a turn or two and then you end up in this corner. It also is because there's specific cards and a specific space that send people to jail. And so there's another launch pad that ends up always pushing people throughout the board to these high traffic areas. Okay, so if you can buy these orange and red properties, you're statistically buying the high traffic locations that people actually land on. And they're not, the boardwalk and park place with, they're not the luxury. And so you've got this faster ROI because people are landing on it. You've got moderate build costs, unlike boardwalk and park place, for example. And so you've got this high, this high hit frequency, high ROI, and lower build cost than some of the, luxury properties that are happening. Number 3, okay, build 3 houses as fast as possible. And that is the sweet spot, okay? And the reason why is because there's 2 reasons. One, it maximizes rent per investment of the property that you own, of the monopoly, properties that you own. And second, there's actually only 32 houses in the game. So people who really know this game, what they're trying to do is squeeze the constraints because there are a limited number of houses. And so by doing 3 houses, you're using as many as possible across, all of the properties that you have. And so this is where you're able to squeeze the constraint and control the supplies that are there for other people to use against you, right? So you're maximizing pain. You get that point of diminishing returns. 4, you want to use trades to create monopolies. In other words, don't be afraid or don't be hesitant to let go, okay, of properties that you own, okay, if you can trade them in order to get properties all the same color. Because building on your strengths, okay, once you're on the board and like all the awards have been, handed out in terms of, who's got what properties, trade as much as you can to build specific strengths, to build monopolies on that board, okay? And so you always want to, create potential cash flow versus rent liability in return. Okay, so 5, create a mortgage machine. And what this means is don't be afraid to use debt. Okay, you want to use debt in order to build the assets, in order to build the strengths and build the monopolies, because that's how you're actually able to, get access to cash that you don't necessarily have in order to continue to building the assets where you charge other people rent. Okay, and so you want to, favor liquidity over, too many undeveloped spots. Okay, as well. And so you want to use this leverage that's available in order to get that done. 6, your jail strategy evolves. Okay. And what I mean by that is that early in the game, you want to pay to get out of jail as fast as possible because you want to get out there and you want to be buying properties. You want to be buying as much as you can because that's the early game strategy. Later in the game, however, okay, what happens is that if you are out traveling around the board, what's happening is you're landing on other people's spots and you're paying rent. And what that means is you're increasing your expenses. But if you just hide out in jail while other people are parading around the board, they're going to land on your spots. So you're actually keeping your revenue high and your expenses low. And that's what's keeping your liquidity and your cash flow management at maximum during that stage of the game. Okay. And the last one is, obviously you want to focus on high impact monopolies that will maximize rents when landed on, right? But, look, there's a picture of a turtle here because Monopoly takes a long time to play, okay? And the truth is that most of the Monopoly games that we start with our friends or whatever, they fizzle out because someone gives up, right? And it's usually not the person winning. And so the point is that to play Monopoly, to win at Monopoly, you need to be patient. And you need to understand that this is a long game, okay? This is a long game, and just playing for longer is sometimes the little thing that can make the big difference. And this 7, rule framework is how you win at the game of Monopoly, guys. But I want to ask you a question. This is why we're all here right now, right? Have you ever wanted to play Monopoly, but in real life? Okay, and that's exactly what me and my team are doing right now in St. Louis, Missouri. But let me back up. A lot of you know me, but we invited, I think, 85,000 people at some point, one way or another, onto this live call. So let me throw this out at you. My name is Walker Diable. I've been acquiring companies since 2006. I've done 3 startups. Had 3 exits. I'm founder of a couple of companies. But here's the thing: I've been inside 100 transactions, right? And so, the big purpose of this slide is that I've been a buyer, I've been a seller, I've started companies, I've had exits, and I've been in every single seat in a business transaction. I launched the Entrepreneurship Through Acquisition program at the Olin School of Business right here in St. Louis. I used to be licensed by the SEC. I've got my MBA. I've got every private market certification out there that I know of, and I've been published in a lot of places. But I'm really mostly known for writing what has become the single best-selling book on buying small companies in the history of the world. Thank you. But the point is the Wall Street Journal liked it, and USA Today liked it, and I think it's been an Amazon bestseller every single day for like 7 years. So thank you so much. It took me millions of dollars and a decade of my life to live it before 4.5 years of writing it. So if you have checked it out, I hope that you liked it. Okay. And I also ended up founding Acquisition Lab as a result of it, because I was getting too many, hey, Walker, will you help me? I want to do what you did. I was getting like 20 a week still to this day. So we launched Acquisition Lab, which is the elite accelerator for small business acquisitions. We have over 1,000 members. We've got the highest conversion rate of member to acquisition ratio in the world by not a little bit. And it's just one of the most fun things I've ever done. But the thing that I want to talk about though, is that, obviously I've been buying these companies, and I always realize that every time I buy a company, I'm basically like buying the whole thing every time. And I'm taking responsibility for, all the debt, for the upside, for the management, for the employees, for just all the cash flow, everything. Like, it's like I'm getting all the upside, but I'm also taking on, all the risk. And so I think that what I realized was a couple of things, which was, number one, I hit the limits of my scalability. I couldn't just keep buying more companies. Okay. And some of that was just capacity, and other parts of it were just, access to debt eventually runs out, and you've got to just build value in what you have. And the other component is that every single member of the Acquisition Lab, they all ask the same question in multiple different ways, in multiple different levels of, high or down on the ground. And that question is, Walker, how do I make sure, how do I, like, buying a business is risky AF. So like, how do I make sure I'm not making a mistake? And the thing is when you look at the textbook of how you manage risk, the way that you successfully manage risk is diversification. And when you buy a business, you're going all in on one business, usually with a huge chunk of your personal net worth and a huge, personally guaranteed loan. That's the most common way to do it. And so, you can't exactly diversify. But I realized, okay, back in 2013, I started buying pieces of companies, and I call this pizza by the slice. Okay. I didn't have to buy the whole thing every time. I could leverage other teams working in industries that I wasn't in, that had an edge, that, had the track record and everything, and, and all of the right pieces. I just didn't have to participate. And so all of a sudden I realized I could become a passive owner of owning multiple businesses. And so I ultimately built this pizza portfolio. Okay. And so I started buying back in 2013. I started buying chunks of businesses, investing an equal amount that I would put into an acquisition. So when I would buy a business, I would usually pay between, $100,000 and just over $250,000 as the cash infusion. And then I would take these SBA loans, right? That's what I did like 8 times over. And so I was taking the same amount of money as my equity infusion, 100 grand, 200 grand, and putting them into, businesses, into real estate, into, private credit ultimately. And so I was able to accelerate my wealth growth rate passively and significantly faster. So I had minimized my risk by being able to diversify, by taking my cash that I was generating from my business and putting it into, other businesses to build this portfolio. And the truth is like, when I run my own businesses, I'm trying to get outside of my earned income. I'm trying to hit like a 35% internal rate of return. And that's what you're going to get in the sort of private equity space. Okay. But anything over, the sort of 7.5, after volatility that you're getting in the stock market means that you're accelerating faster. And this ultimately led to me founding Build Wealth, which is me just, sharing deals that I'm investing in with our community. And it's been so much fun because, we've got all of these entrepreneur investors in our larger community that, we've ended up investing about $23.5 million of our own money just over the last 12 months. And so we've bought, pieces of manufacturing companies in Dallas that are going public next year. We've got, a video game producer. We've got, multiple real estate buildings. We've got a credit fund. We're in the process of doing an oil well, cash flowing oil well roll up. It's just been so much fun. But, the big thing that I want everyone to sort of recognize here is that when you become, an accredited investor, which is, $1 million in net worth outside of your personal residence, or I think it's 300,000 in earned income married, what happens is that, you hit rich. But there's this little problem. There's this chasm that you still have to cross. Okay. And I sort of call it like little rich, like you're little rich. But the problem is like you're one disaster away from not being wealthy anymore. Right. And so you've got a situation where you've got to cross this chasm to get to big rich. Okay. And let me explain this a step further. Let me just break down the numbers. And some of you guys have seen this. I've shared this little bit on LinkedIn Live. Don't worry, I'm going to get back to what we're doing in the Monopoly game in just a second. But let me make a point, okay? When you get to $1 million, you're in the top 8% richest people in the United States. But to get to the top 1%, okay, you need, $13 million. I think it's 13.3 right now, okay, to be in the top 1% richest people in the United States. All right. But the thing is that, when the big inside deals are happening and where all the big financial advisors are going is they're all going towards ultra high net worth individuals. And where's that? That's up here. That's 30 million. And when you have $30 million or more, rich people acknowledge that you are rich. If you have less than $30 million, rich people don't acknowledge that you're rich. Believe it or not, that's true. But you can see it's also the like a top 0.25% richest people in the country have that level of wealth. But the thing is like, right, like we're here, right? You're here most likely because look at the numbers, look at the drop off that happens. So we're here, they're there. How do we bridge this chasm? Well, look at this. If you get to 20 million, you can go to sleep and get to 30 million. Okay. All you need to do is invest the money, not make a mistake, put it in bonds or whatever, and live long enough and you'll hit it. I'm surprised it's only 80% success rate, right? But this is literally like I have $20 and I'm trying to turn it into $30. Like you can do that. That's easy. Okay. So the chasm that you need to cross is this sort of like $2 million net worth, 1 to 5 to 20 million. So going from 2 to 20, that is your goal that I am charging you with. And the thing is most people cross this chasm with, one big, entrepreneurial effort, right? So they went out and they sold their business for, 20, 30, 40, 50 million. And that's how most people cross it. And the reason why is because things like the stock market, where we're told, go get a high paying job and save 10 or 20% of your income and put it in the stock market, maybe a 60, 40, percent split with bonds. It grows too slowly unless we get bitten by a vampire and live forever. Okay, so it just grows too slowly. Your money, my realization was my money wasn't working as hard as I do. Okay, I work hard. Okay, and my money is like a little lame and it's a little moody, right? And so every once in a while, it just drops 40% of its net worth in the stock market, right? And so I didn't like that. And I knew that as entrepreneurs, we were able to create tremendous value inside our privately held companies. And if you want to cross this chasm and become an ultra high net worth individual, you can't invest like the average millionaire. Can we just agree on that? Okay, just agree on that. And actually, we're not going to agree on it. Let's dive into it. This is Tiger 21's asset allocation. And, I'm going to cruise through this, but what you're going to see here, okay, is that 54% of their net worth is in private real estate deals and private equity. Okay. And, where are we? Where are we as the average millionaire? We're right down here. we've got 100% in public equities. We might have, we might have some bonds mixed in. We might have, a little life insurance or whatever, but that's where we play. And when you become an accredited investor, I mean, this $1 million net worth number or, higher income, you all of a sudden, this whole portfolio is available to you. Okay. Is available to you. So there's a gentleman named David Swensen, okay, who was so good. He was the one who basically realized, like, wait a minute, liquidity is nice up to a certain level, but then I don't really need liquidity after that, right? Like, being in the stock market is liquid, but, if you're like me, you realize, like, well, you can't touch it. You can't interrupt it. The minute you interrupt it, like, your compounding gets disrupted, right? So, I think the comment here is like David Swensen realized that, and he was like, I want to go get the illiquidity premiums. And so he started allocating the Yale endowment model, what became the Yale endowment model. And he was so successful that every endowment after that is trying to copy him. And what did he do? He put 73% into alternative assets. Okay. And I would argue that cash and fixed income, the fixed income piece was probably credit funds. And this is 73% is a little less than, what we just saw at the Tiger 21, but directionally it's okay. And so I started realizing, like, okay, I'm investing in real estate and businesses and, cash flowing private credit. Like, how do I start to think about all of this? And I ultimately ended up developing the wealth stack model. It's a different talk I'm not giving right now, but ultimately the point here is that we were told, go get a high paying job and save 10 to 20% into your, retirement account, into the stock market, whatever. And so that's passive, right? A few of us maybe run out and buy a rental building or whatever, but the point is you've got your active income and you've got your passive income, okay? And the wealth stack is simply capturing the same recipe, but in the private markets, okay? So you need to look, either you've got a high paying W-2 and you can start to invest passively so that you can, basically engineer your own freedom, okay? Or you own a business that you've either started or acquired, okay, and then you've got all of this extra cash that you need to be putting into the private markets in order that it will work as hard as you do. All right. Now, let's see. So after I did that and we launched Build Wealth, okay, I started coming out with some of these deals, and these are the deals that I'm actually investing in. The first deal is on track. We're tracking right about 49% internal rate of return. We're, let's see, a little over a year in, maybe a year and a half. And I bet you it's a 3-building portfolio. I bet you that first building will actually exit next year. I wasn't told that. I just am kind of reading the tea leaves. Deal number 2, we're actually currently more than doubled in 13 months. So we're way over the projected IRR right now, but it's going to go on for another couple of years. So we'll see if that trajectory can maintain. That company is going to go public in 2026. And we're self-listing on the NASDAQ. Number 3 is, that's going to be a ground-up development building that we're breaking ground on later this year. Number 4 is a credit fund. So, we're tracking about 11% cash-on-cash returns right now, but it's paid monthly, okay? And so, that's a lower internal rate of return, but lower volatility and monthly cash flow straight to my bank account. I'm the single largest investor in that deal. So number 5, look, I'm not going to break these down. Look at the average. Okay. You're talking about, these are businesses. These are, cash flowing oil wells. These are over collateralized real estate. This is, ground up. It's real estate portfolios, all the things. And we're averaging a 24 to 37% internal rate of return on the projections, which, I know that you think you're getting 10% in the stock market. You're not, because of the volatility and all the rest of it. And by the way, when the stock market goes down and you panic sell, you're interrupting the compounding and you're not getting anywhere close to that 7.5%. Okay. Unless you're, one of the 1% geniuses, in which case you can't repeat it every year statistically. So that's what happens. But so I really started taking a disciplined approach to this diversified private market investing since 2019. I sat down and really just mapped it all out and was like, how do I have my investments work as hard as I do and engineer my own financial freedom? And I came up with an 8-year plan where, I was, investing in all of these different things. And ultimately, it's just, this is what ultimately led to, how I've been playing this game and diversifying in the private markets. And so I am on a mission to help as many people as possible cross this chasm by also investing in the deals I'm investing in. One such example is led by Kyle Howerton. Now, for those of you in St. Louis, Kyle is he was born just outside St. Louis, so I'm not going to say St. Louis native, but he looks like a St. Louisan, and he lives here now despite a 10-year tenure in California. Okay, so Kyle Howerton is one of 4 partners at AHM. I should say 5. And Kyle has a vision. Okay, he's like a real estate visionary to grow AHM to $1 billion in AUM. Okay, it's ambitious, but the thing is it's totally doable just with the large amount of opportunity that's right here in St. Louis. We'll get to some of that a little bit later. But here's the thing, like Kyle looks like this, like this big visionary in this picture. And I just want you to know, he's a super cool guy. All right. Like I drink beer with him every chance I get. And he's funny. He's smart. He's one of the few people I've ever met that work as hard as I do. There's no 4-hour work week going on over here. And so, Kyle and his team really, their whole business model is to source the most unique off-market, underappreciated opportunities and pursue the ones with the greatest potential. Okay. But it's not all about financial returns. Okay. They're going after risk-adjusted returns. Okay. Low risk, high, given the return that we're getting. But more than that, the AHM is really trying to lift up the communities in which they invest. And AHM is actually the single largest real estate owner in every single neighborhood that they are partying in right now. Okay. And so the deal that we're looking at right now is we've got 11 off-market properties under contract that we will own at this time next month. Okay. It's in the most desirable neighborhood in the Midwest, debatably in the Central West End. Okay. We'll get to that in a second. And he's got a playbook to turn $10 million of LP, limited partner invested capital into $200 million. All right. And so what we're doing right here is we formed an entity called Build Legacy. And what we're doing is we are, we're building this mixed use real estate portfolio in the trophy neighborhood of the Central West End. Okay. So, oh yeah, I need to say a disclaimer. Look, I just have to say this. It's all of the, I can't give financial advice and, be an adult. Anytime you invest money, you can lose it. And there's risks in everything. And if you're like me, you own it and just sort of try to make smart decisions and go with it. But ultimately, all of this is for entertainment purposes only. I'm not, selling securities, et cetera, all the things. Please read this in great detail. Okay, great. Moving on. This, is St. Louis, Missouri. All right, this is St. Louis, Missouri. But when you look at a map of St. Louis, it looks like this. Okay, there's all of these little neighborhoods in it. And when you look at St. Louis, I want you to look specifically right here. That is called the Central West End. All right. And the Central West End, if I blow up, looks like this. All right. The Central West End, this, as you will find out, is our monopoly board. Okay. This is our monopoly board, ladies and gentlemen. So let me start to break down why this makes such a good board. First is all the things surrounding it. Okay. So to the east, you've got St. Louis University. And you've also got Midtown. Midtown is, it's home of the Foundry. It's home of, the Fox Theater. It's a huge. It's got a oh my gosh, what's that? It's got an IKEA, guys. It has an IKEA in Midtown. So it's this really great, sort of, I won't even say emerging anymore, but still kind of emerging neighborhood. You've got Downtown West, or what's now called City Commons, down here with the new soccer stadium, and there's a whole bunch of new jobs moving into that neighborhood. To the left, to the west, you've got Forest Park, which is a huge green space, which we'll talk about for a second. Then there's Clayton. That's where I am right now. This is where I live. This is where, Buy Then Build and Build Wealth is headquartered. It's, the highest rent district in the entire Midwest, second only to Wacker Drive in Chicago. And then you've got Washington University. So obviously my alma mater, the number one medical school in, I think, the country. They've got, ranked business programs, law programs, engineering programs, all right here. Okay. To the north, you've got the Del Mar Loop. And this was the place of, revitalization. This was the neighborhood of revitalization when I was growing up in, in the 90s. And so this has not only taken hold, but Washington University has really kind of taken it over. All the students are there. It's a very lively neighborhood. To the south, you've got the Grove. The Grove is a neighborhood where AHM actually played a huge role in revitalizing this whole area. And so you've got this Highway 40. For those of you that don't know, it's basically the main traffic vein of the whole city in terms of how people get around. Okay, the Central West End looks like this, and ultimately it is the most in-demand neighborhood, debatably, in the entire Midwest. And why is that? It's because you have all of this you have all of this mixed use space down here. Okay, you've got all of these big economic drivers. You've got all of this street life. It's very, very walkable. You have a lot of green space. You've got a lot of luxury shopping. Okay, that's happening right here. You have a lot of luxury condos and buildings and apartments that have gone in. A lot of luxury apartments have gone in, and they are getting eaten up because it's very hard to get a place there, even though they can't build them fast enough. So there's a street culture. There's coffee shops. Okay, there's restaurants. There is there's ranked restaurants. Okay, like nationally ranked restaurants. I'm skipping through all this because I don't want to hammer it, but you get the picture here. It's walkable. It's it's a lot of street life. We've got a bookstore. Left Bank Books is a household name in St. Louis. A bookstore. Remember these guys? And then we've got the World Hall of Fame, the Chess Hall of Fame. Really, Walker? Chess? Really? Yes, guys. Chess. Like international games are happening right here. And I think that the thing that makes it almost the most charming is actually the architecture. It's so architecturally rich. So looking on the left, you've got these like big, sexy, modern, architecture buildings, but then you also have these huge homes that are from like, the turn of the century, but, going back into, 1900, and then you've got, all these like brownstone looking style buildings going down there. You've got, the Chase Park Plaza. You've got all of these really unique, high character, buildings and like these, you can't build this stuff anymore. Okay. And down here, this is the Basilica. If you look at that, that's the Basilica. And if you go inside the Basilica, guys, it looks like this. This is not AI. This is literally what the Basilica in the St. Louis Central West End looks like. Okay. And if this isn't your thing, it's okay. Don't worry. We have a Whole Foods. You can go to Whole Foods instead. All right. It's fine. And so the Central West End, okay, has really emerged as this wonderful neighborhood to live, work, and play. And this is our board. Look, it's got traffic and it's got anchors. All right, let me explain. So first, you've got the high traffic, high rent potential. So you've got, I think it's like 1 million people a year on foot walking through this place, right? And it all is because we have these huge anchors in terms of Barnes Jewish and WashU Medical Campus. You've got over 20,000 employees. You've got 2,000 medical students and residents and $1 billion in research funding right here in this walkable neighborhood. You also have the Cortex Innovation Community. I can't really do this justice if you don't know what it is, but it's essentially spurring $2.1 billion in annual economic activity and 40 million in new tax revenue right here in the Central West End. They're shooting to employ another 15,000 people. Okay, so you've got 16,500 residents that live there. You've got 5,000 daily transit riders because there's all of this transit already installed. You've got 11,000 foot traffic, 22,000 daily vehicle counts. Okay, you've got 40,000 resident and non-resident traffic flow moving through this neighborhood. Okay, who are these people? Their average age is 39 with a higher than average income and education. Okay, this is the profile. And so you've got the largest populated neighborhood in St. Louis, period. Okay. There's huge unmet demand. They're at near capacity with limited new development opportunities at all. Okay. And, I've got some insight and I can't share anything, especially publicly, but we have reason to believe that private equity has been moving in to St. Louis because of the CoStar reports that have come out and said that St. Louis has some of the lowest new construction for existing apartment stock in the country right now. And essentially, this is the Marlowe. My neighbor actually built this and put it in, and it's 100 above the park is going in. It's these luxury buildings. Okay, are at 94 to 95% capacity quickly. This is not one of these coastal overbuilt neighborhoods, guys. Okay, and it's running out of real estate. Okay, so you've got these irreplaceable monopoly anchors, right? You've got the permanent economic engines of WashU and St. Louis University. You've got BJC Healthcare, and you've got this cultural capital. Okay, Forest Park is. Am I talking about Forest Park next? Where's my slide? So anyway, I mean, you've got all of this green space we're going to talk about, right? So you've got all of this culture and all the rest of it. Forest Park, guys, if you pay rent in Central West End, you can cross the street to the largest city park in the country. There is golf courses. There is, a ranked art museum. There is a boathouse. You can go out on boats. You can, drink during the day or have lunch, or you can go to the Jewel Box. There's every year they've got, the balloon race. I mean, there's fountains and trails every morning. People are running, people are riding their bikes. People are, if you're me, you're walking. You can go to the zoo and it's completely free. You can just walk over on Sunday morning with your coffee and see the polar bear. Okay. If you pay rent in the Central West End, this is free and it's on foot. Walker, I get it. What are those 7 steps again? Yes, I understand. So how do we win at Monopoly? We're going to walk through all of these 7 steps, okay, but in real life. 1, buy everything you land on early in the game. Okay, so check it out. All of the little blue items that you see there, these are actual properties that we have under contract right now, okay? And we will own these at the end of the beginning of September, I'll say, okay? So in 1 month's time, we'll own all of these, all right? So we're starting by seeding our fund with 11 properties, which on day 1 will actually make us the most quantity-wise real estate owner in the Central West End, period, all right? This is gotten by Kyle Howerton, which we talked about. So it's 40 years. The guy that we're buying it from took 40 years to accumulate all of this property, and he wants AHM to own it. He wants AHM to continue the legacy. And in theory, we're getting it below market value. And I'm saying that because I'm public right now. But it's below market value. And the seller is rolling a large amount of preferred equity into the deal because he wants to stay in the deal. This is his legacy. And he is choosing who is going to take it to the next level. Okay. So we're getting $27 million of real estate value for $4.5 million in investment. Walker, I thought you said it's $10 million fund overall. Yes, there's another $5.5 million for ongoing development and strategic growth in the neighborhood. We'll get to that. Okay, number 2, target the orange and red properties. Guys, we are going to own all 4 corners of one of the largest foot traffic neighborhood intersections in the neighborhood, if not the largest. There are 6 restaurants on this intersection that we will own all 4 corners of. So this is the orange and red properties that you talk about. These are the ones that are over there, okay, that get all the foot traffic where people go and spend money. And, we're not talking about it in this slide, but like, this is what the intersection looks like. Ultimately, all of these tenants have been here for decades. These aren't people that like move in and out. Okay. There's not a lot of rotation here. This might be hard to see. That's me standing in the middle of this intersection there with my favorite taco spot in all of St. Louis right there behind me. Okay, 3, build 3 houses. That's code for increase the value of everything you own, okay? And just with the 11 seed properties that you can see sort of marked on this bird's eye view map, we have 8, okay, where we have already recognized ways to increase revenue. This is not full-blown value add. Some of them are, okay? But ultimately, the point is there are ways to increase revenue substantially with a high percentage of all of the properties that we're buying right away. We are building those 3 houses figuratively by increasing the value of the properties that we're buying. Use trades to create monopolies. Okay, so we're raising another $5.5 million. I can't say publicly what's in the pipeline, but we have a very healthy pipeline. And we have buildings that are very, very close to the ones we are buying that are ready to move forward with us when we're able to do that. Okay, so this is we're expanding the property pipeline and control of the neighborhood. All right. So create a mortgage machine. Obviously, we're using large amounts of debt in order to buy all of these real assets. And I just want to draw your attention to the fact that to the right of your screen, you're going to see a big green rectangle that says multifamily house. So this is multifamily that we will not own, that has zero parking, zero off-street parking. The blue 1.1 acres of parking spaces is what we will own. Okay. And so there's obviously a conversation to be had right there, because you can, cut a fence right in the middle of that far spot, which is where none of the street traffic is going to want to park anyway, by the way. So that's an obvious, thing. But the more important thing is that we are acquiring the last buildable acre in core Central West End. Okay. And so we have on AHM's team a ground up partner that has a robust resume in terms of all the buildings that he's built. And we are looking at this, and inside the fund, the people that are in the first equity in, which is the $10 million fund, are actually going to have GP level returns on that specific property, should that be ultimately part of what happens inside the fund. That is the plan. So you've got the strategy evolves, right? So your jail strategy evolves. This is when you sit back, and after you build, you sit back and let it build value. And what I'm trying to get at here, guys, is that there's a lot of tangible benefits to owning real estate. That's what is easy to point to. But there's a lot of intangible benefits of being able to, work a certain neighborhood and try to build a real community around it. And when you look at, what AHM has been able to do in Tower Grove South and the Grove, and and what they're doing in downtown West right now, it's you can see that they're very good at building momentum and community and lots of places to go, right? And so obviously the underwriting has nothing to do with all the intangibles working, but after you build this, you start to get momentum, and then you're building up equity as you're creating economic drivers around the neighborhood. Okay, I've never seen a projection that is correct, so this is wrong. I'm just going to say that. But what I want to do is illustrate to you how you can build a 7-figure real estate portfolio in this fund as I am. Number one, you'll see in year 0, this is your investment. I put it in as 150,000 instead of 100,000, which is common for me. I'll explain why in a minute. As you can see, cash flow starts about year 3, where you get 10% cash on cash. This is a 10-year hold. Remember that long game? That's what this is. But check it out. By year 6, you're getting 20% cash on cash. So you put in $100,000, you're getting $20,000. That means in most, real estate syndications, you're going to get like 6-8% cash on cash when it starts cash flowing. That means that your money has already more than tripled, okay, in value if you're able to be getting 20% cash on cash. So, you're that first 5 years, you're getting a little money back, more than usual, but like you're also building, right? And so a lot of people will do this like syndication cycle game. Well, they'll be like, oh, I'm going to go do this one building over here, and then I'm going to get my money out in 3 or 5 years. And then I'm going to go do this other one over here. This compounds faster, even though it's a longer hold, and you've got no downtime of capital. And so you've got, 20% cash on cash for the last 5 years. And then in year 10, you've got your exit. So this is like the base case example here is a 5.37. Walker, why'd you use 150,000 investment? Because I ran the numbers, and if you invested 167,000 in year 0 and let it ride for 10 years, and they outperformed base case, meaning they were able to beat their 5.37 because the terms that we're underwriting at right now are like interest rates aren't going down. We have to assume that they're permanent, or they are, all these other assumptions. You get to 5.37. If you think that there might be some easily had upside and they might be able to hit 6x, 167,000 equates to $1 million of a diversified real estate portfolio in one of the highest demand neighborhoods in the entire Midwest. Okay. So that's why I did that. Now, just for comparison, what would your 150,000 look like if you invested in the stock market? Well, first, you'll see there's no cash coming back to you, because I know that it's liquid and that's why we all want it. But the problem is if you jump in and you interrupt it, you interrupt the compounding, you're not getting the returns. Okay. So as a result, all right, you've got, you're going to get a 2.25 times versus a call it 4 times. So do you want a 2.3 times or do you want a 5.4 times? You begin to see why David Swensen and all the endowments and all the ultra high net worth individuals start to say, hey, let's take pieces of our capital and put it over here in this pizza by the slice strategy, because I don't need to operate it and I can build a 7-figure portfolio, not only faster, but with real assets and an A team. Okay. So just want to draw your attention to that. Walker, love it, but it's all about the team. Has AHM done this before? Yes, they have. So this is Tower Grove South. So you've got the MoFo and the YO, and then this building over here is the this building on the lower right is the new property that is, the other two are fully operational and up to speed. This is a new building that they're putting in their next piece. Then this would be the Grove. And so you've got Chroma and Hue and, Urban Chestnut, which is a brewery here that they built. And there's a lot more properties in this neighborhood, but these are the big ones. This is Downtown West, or what's now called City Commons. Kyle and his team were smart enough to realize that the new soccer stadium was unlocking a huge part of a donut hole in our city. And they went out and they acquired 12 urban acres. And so there's a lot of activity here in City Commons. Here's a few examples of the buildings that they own. The lower right and the lower left are two of the buildings that I brought out in the original portfolio that are currently tracking 49% internal rate of returns. The one on the far right is the 314, because it's 314 feet tall. It's also the area code of St. Louis, and it's going to be the largest mass timber building in the world. Okay, and that's going headed to break ground. Is this the first building in the Central West End? No. They acquired a building about 2 years ago. I'm actually a limited partner in this building, and it is called the Capstone. It is in the Central West End. It will be outside of the fund because it's it's closer to maturity than the others. This was a full rehab. So this isn't the first time they're moving into the Central West End. They've already started putting their toe in the water. And I'm also a GP on a ground up building that is happening just 2 intersections north of the large intersection that AHM in the Legacy Fund are acquiring. In the lower right-hand side, that is the building I just showed you, looking out at, I wasn't smart enough to put on here, but you can see the Basilica there. You can see, a lot of the big buildings. This is a few blocks away on the north side on Alt Street. So today, AHM owns, 1,100 active apartment units, 200,000 active commercial square feet. They've got a huge development pipeline. They've got 250 million in AUM, which is a quarter of Kyle's goal. Okay. So that's the approach. Walker, why do you believe so much in this team? Okay, guys, it's 11:48. I'm going to be done in 12 minutes. I promise you. Now, here's the deal. Here's why I like AHM. By the way, Johanna, if you're there, I can't actually see the chat on LinkedIn for some reason. I can see it on YouTube. If you wouldn't mind, just drop in the chat in case anyone wants to join us. Okay, drop in there. I just put together an 8 email series that breaks down a whole bunch of specifics of the strategy and the deal. It's the best thing I've ever written, and it'll just get you inside one of our deals that we're working on. And if you're interested in checking that out, go sign up for that email series. If you want to jump into our portal and see other things that I'm investing in, have it that. And Mike Brown is our director of investor relations, and Johanna is also going to drop his calendar and hopefully his cell phone in there. Just text him right now and get on there. So we're happy to have conversations with you. This one, if you want to do what I'm doing and bridge the gap from 2 to 20 million, okay, by investing like ultra high net worth individuals, have a call with Mike. He and I work together intimately. All of our investors, I want to give him my cell phone number. So this is I'm trying to build a family office like, environment where we as a community can find deals and bring them in and invest in together. That's what I'm trying to do at Build Wealth. So if you are interested in joining, great. If you're not, great. This is just content to share with you what I'm doing and what I'm up to. But obviously we're here if you want to take that step with us. And by the way, One more thing on this legacy fund. I'm looking for 45 people to join us on this mission. Okay, we've got a 12% extra preferred return for anyone who's able to invest before we close at the end of the month, because we want to use that capital to close on those seed properties, and then the pref drops after that. So if it is something that you're interested in, get in the portal, talk to Mike, let's have a conversation and see if it's a fit, and we'll go from there, because there's extra money to be had if you can help us close. So, okay, commercial real estate is the best time-tested, risk-adjusted, stable asset class. Scalable? Yeah, it's scalable, because the way that you grow the real estate business is you buy another building. It's just that scalable. Like once you've got the operations down, okay, then it's all, just adding another block, okay? Scalable. It's the best time-tested, risk-adjusted. We all know people who have become millionaires by doing nothing but real estate. What's super interesting right now is if you look at how new starts, multifamily starts versus current inventory, it's lower than it's been like ever. Okay. And so look at this graph. If you look at that, 09, 010, 011 dip, that was that dip where investing in multifamily real estate wasn't popular. But then you move out to 15, 17, 19, and all of a sudden you're asking all your friends who are doing it, like, how did you get so smart? How did you know to invest in real estate? Guys, look at where the chart is right now. This is that moment in the cycle where investing in multifamily is not popular. Okay. Recently, people probably even got burned because of what happened with interest rates and all the underwriting that happened on unsustainable levels. And this is the moment where it's not popular, but it's where the big gains are made. Okay, because look at this graph and look at when it's low and look when it's high, and what do you think is going to happen next? I'll let you decide. Okay, maybe this is why BlackRock recently bought Elm Tree Funds right here in St. Louis to buy real estate. Second, non-coastal focus. I've got 8 minutes. I'm promising I'm going to finish. Non-coastal focus reduces volatility and increases returns. Okay. So look, on the coast, you've got, political risks. You've got all of these, peaks and valleys, and, all of this other, all of this activity that's always happening. And so in the Midwest, it's sort of flyover territory. No one really looks at it. None of the big players are really jumping in. Okay. And so it's one of these places where the peaks and valleys are very, very muted. But we have all of these huge economic, ultra diversified drivers that don't exist in other similarly sized cities. So we've got, education, we've got healthcare, we've got ag tech, we've got defense, we've got beer, guys. We have lots of beer in St. Louis. And so because it's overlooked, okay, we've got very few institutional investors here, which means that we have I mean, guys, we want to go on a shopping spree. Like there's so much work to do. And AHM has been my real estate team that I've invested the most money in when I'm investing in real estate. And so there's tons of opportunity to engineer value by creating live, work, play communities and focusing on relationships and off-market acquisitions. And so we live here, by the way. I can drive to the entire portfolio in 10 or 15 minutes, okay? Dual strategy. It's value add acquisitions and it's ground up. So it's how do we get cash, in the midterm, in 3 to 5 years? Do we buy, and we also buy some cash flowing properties that are just, at full good to go capacity, but also ground up. And that's where those generational wealth opportunities come in. And so AHM has always taken a dual strategy to conquering any neighborhood. And okay, here's how I want to explain this. You have a large volume of real estate investors, okay, in the world. 10 to 12 million individual real estate investors in the United States, okay? But the truth is they're small, okay? They're just, we're buying $1, $2, $3, $4 million buildings. And then you go up to institutional, and there's 300 institutional firms. And these guys, they can't write a check that's less than $10 million because it's too small for them to deal with managing it. It's not enough money, for them. It's like you investing $10. Like you don't even want to manage it, right? It's not enough zeros for them to care. So what happens is there's this wonderful sub-institutional gap where the smaller investors, they either don't have the cash or they don't have the vision or they just don't care enough because they don't need to. Okay. And then you've got this and it's too small for the institutional investors, this is where we party. Okay. And in business acquisitions, we always talk about multiple expansion. And what happens is you buy in this sub-institutional gap, and by building this $200 million portfolio, you can feed right into the institutions that just want to come in and buy the whole thing, which is option one for exit. You can also piecemeal it out if you're going to get more money. AHM revitalizes entire neighborhoods. Okay. It's not like, oh, I've got this one good building and, we've got this, good deal. It's kind of what we talked about. The current fragmented real estate ownership can't meet the scale. And, we're able to, buy in all of these places and city plan. We're able to say, like, we want a cafe here. We want a market here. We want, that's what we're doing when we go in, and we end up having control of, all of the neighborhood. Lean, I mean that figuratively, but also we own a lot of it and we have a lot of information. Lean execution. So they're vertically integrated, okay, and aligned. In other words, they keep all of the value in the real estate, which is the best time-tested, risk-adjusted, scalable asset class. Even though AHM has a real estate management company in it, it's not running profitably on purpose because it wants to keep all the profits down there. They've got capital strategists. They've got, debt and equity strategists. They've got ground up, and value add people all on the team. So there's no like third party expensive consulting that needs to happen in order to figure out how to address a certain building or strategy. So they control the management, but keep the value in the assets, and they move more efficiently, and they are aligned with investors like me in how they work, which I love. 6, sophisticated team means what I call Midwest arbitrage. So let me give it to you like this. Think to yourself about the last time a trend started in the Midwest and then moved out to the coast. Okay. Just think about that for a minute. Okay. Here's the thing. You can't remember because it didn't happen ever. It never happens. Guys, it goes the other way. Okay. Trends always start on the coast and move into the Midwest. Okay. And there's always a 10 to 15 year delay. And so I call this Midwest arbitrage. Let me give you some examples. You guys on the coast have Sweetgreen. And I know you have Sweetgreen because I go there every single time. Okay. We in the Midwest, we don't have that. Other people saw that, and here in St. Louis, we have Neon Greens. And guys, Neon Greens is awesome. Okay. Remember I was talking about Midtown? It's in Midtown. Other places in the Midwest have Crispin Green. Okay. They're just borrowing the thing that's working on the coast and building it here. You guys have Blue Bottle Coffee. Okay. We don't have that. We have Blueprint Coffee, and it's awesome. It's an awesome third wave coffee that's just as good. Okay. You guys have berries. Guess what? We have Shred 415. Okay. You guys have Brooklyn. Brooklyn is perhaps the greatest success story of a revitalization in, American history. Okay. And, you've got all of these wonderful brownstones, in Brooklyn, like this one and this one. Oh, wait, that's not Brooklyn. That's the Central West End. Oh, that's not Brooklyn either. That's the Central West End in St. Louis. When I brought when I brought Mike Brown, our director of investor relations, to the Central West End and toured him around with Kyle, he was like, "Oh my God, this is just like places in Boston where I grew up and I missed it." Right, I missed it. And when I shared this with another investor who's from New York, she was like, "I saw this happen in Brooklyn and I missed it." Right, and so whatever it is, what that's resonating with you, whatever you saw, okay, whether it was the South End or the Back Bay or the West Loop in Chicago or Brooklyn, this is what's happening now. Okay, the Central West End is ripe for the taking. We've got the team. We've got all the priorities right. And the last thing with 1 minute to go is the edge that AHM has been able to build because they own more real estate in every single neighborhood that they party in than anyone else. They have more rents for more individuals than anyone else. They've got control. They have the relationships. They have the flywheel. Okay. And so, ultimately what I'm doing myself is we are playing Monopoly in real life. And so if you read Buy Then Build, I buy companies. Okay. I buy companies, and now I also do pizza by the slice. And a big part of, taking control of your financial journey is understanding the value of real assets versus intangibles and when to play what role. Okay. And so I'm making a major investment of my own money into the AHM team. And I believe we're currently at a tipping point in what is going to happen here. And we've got an arbitrage window to capitalize on because there's a huge supply demand imbalance. It's 12 o'clock. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was fun. It was fun for me, except I can't see you. We need to fix that. Shanae, if you're out there, I'm calling you later because we need to figure out this chat thing. It didn't work this time. Guys, listen, if you do want to learn more, text our director of investor relations, Mike Brown. We'd love to have a conversation one way or another. But the big takeaway, guys, is I just want you to I want you to understand that in order to bridge the chasm, okay, you've got to make the leap from 2 to 20 million. And you're not going to do it. You can't do it in a 60-40 portfolio. It's not possible because you won't live long enough. So the question I've been asking myself for the last 12 years is, how do I make my money work harder so that, look, money doesn't buy happiness. It doesn't. We all know that. But it can buy financial freedom. Okay. And once you're able to live off of your assets, we used to call that retirement. I call it financial freedom because now I can do whatever I want. And I want you to have that also. I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for being here, guys.